This is a short tutorial on how to change the main screen on a Garmin 550. It's not a particularly hard job, but worth having a look at. First of all, you need to remove the back, the micro SD card and the batteries. In my case, there's a series of Torx screws. This is a T5 and there's 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remove those and then separate the cases. Here's the two cases. It comes across. And there's a cable just up in the top left hand side there. So be careful when you lift that off. And you use the stick to lever under there very gently, and that pops up and that releases. The next thing you have to do is there's 4 silver tabs, 1, 2, 3 and 4. You lever between the body and the circuit board and very gently pry it out without damaging anything. And there's a circuit strip underneath here, so when you lift this up, be very careful as well, because you don't want to damage that, and that's attached to the LCD screen. So I've already pried them out a little bit. It just starts to lift up then. Okay, so now you're ready to lift the circuit board up underneath the 2 ribbon cables. You have to be fairly careful with them. Removing those is a little bit of an art in itself. Putting them back on, significantly harder. I'll try to show you how that's done. But see the small one on the right and the larger one on the left. And that silver thing is the LCD that I'm planning to change. As you lift the circuit board, there's 2 small clips, that one there and that one there. Take note of the orientation of them as you remove them, and try not to lose them. They have to go back in again. They're what the rear cover screws into. Now I need to lift out the 2 ribbon cables. It's hard to see, but there is a little shutter on each one. On that one I think it's the black line that lifts up in this direction. Be really careful when you lift it. Try to lift it evenly across it. It'll point 90 degrees to what it presently is. And then on this one it's the white shutter. Lift that up again back towards me. Remove the small cable first, then the larger cable. Be careful how much strain you put on them. You have to remove these cables before you can remove the LCD, because there's 4 Torx screws holding the LCD down. Here's the 2 ribbon cable shutters. The best thing I found to do it with was a wooden skewer, and I leave it along and popped them up. You have to lever along them and just sort of lever them bit by bit, and they just eventually pop up from the horizontal down here to the vertical. Start with the small white one, lift it up, pop the cable out, then do this one, lift it up and pop the cable out. Be very gentle with them, by the way. So finally, you're at the point of removing the LCD screen. Take the 4 Torx screws out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember 2 of them are sitting behind this ribbon cable. then you should be able to lift up the LCD. You may have to pry the tabs that are 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the casing at the same time, and remember the gasket that sits behind the LCD screen. Make sure when you replace it you put that gasket back on correctly. I finally managed to get the cable in. There didn't seem to be any easy way of doing it. I had to just line the big cable up first and slide it into the slot, and then push the clip down, the big long black strip that's on there. I had to push that down. Make sure that when you finish it's nice and straight. If it's not straight, it's probably not all the way in. Then once I'd done the larger one, then I slotted the smaller one in, which wasn't too hard, and again put the clip down, and that's it. Putting it back together, make sure you put the two spaces, the one that goes there and the one that goes there, in before you clip the circuit board back down. So finally got that all back in again. That was a lot more fiddling around than I expected. I'd forgot to put the 4 torque screws in. Found out that you could actually perhaps even assemble it all and put the 4 torque screws in at the end. So maybe you could do the ribbon cables before you assembled it, but you can't clip this top circuit board down if that's the case until you've put the 4 torque screws in, and the 2 up the top in particular, because they're up near the ribbon cable. But anyway, I did it the original method I was going to do, which was just fiddling around until I finally got the ribbon cable in place once the LCD was screwed in. And now I just have to get this and push it back onto that place there. It just clips in, and then it's fairly well ready to be closed up. It's just the screws for the casing and give it a bit of a test. Hopefully by now I've fixed up the problem with the LCD, which was grey lines going across the LCD, which I assume was the edge lighting on the LCD, which must be along there somewhere, is blown out. But maybe I'll dismantle this one day and have a look to see if I can fix them up. There must be just small LEDs in there. No big drama. I'll put it together and see how it goes. Okay, so here we go. Let's turn it on. Not saying Garmin. Put that light away. Perfect. No grey bars on it anymore. Before I used to have grey bars going across there. So next thing I'll do will probably be calibrate the screen, make sure everything's going well, and that seems perfect. I can go darker, brighter. Yep, no marks on it at all. Perfect fix. Job done. Here's just a little bit of extra information. I dismantled the LCD, took the tin cover off, took the plastic cover off, a bit of prying around, it seemed fairly stuck. Now these are the LEDs along here. When I took it off, I noticed this top sheet here was just slightly crooked like that. So I peeled it off, put it back on. I've straightened it up, and I wonder if just by that being crooked, maybe displaced from a bit of heat or something like that, or maybe when I dropped it or something, I'm not too sure, but maybe that not being exactly aligned could be the cause as to why I had grey stripes along this area on the other side of the screen. If that's the case, it's not so bad. I'll probably, if I have an issue with the screen in the future, I'll probably put this one back in and try, because I can't imagine these LEDs actually failing. If they did, it should leave more of an overall grey pattern rather than just a single grey, because they should line up like that. So there's probably like little tubes in that by design. It's probably etched into them, tubes along this Mylar film, whichever it is. It's really thin film, as you can see. And it probably gets to a certain point and then can shine across. So if that wasn't lined up right like that, it was just tilted slightly, just a smidge like that. So I'm going to put it all back together and keep it as a spare for the future. Who knows? Might get lucky.